They have gathered. Muhammad has come to the mountain. Donald Trump and Paul Ryan have held their momentous summit in order to save the conservative movement from itself. And Trump will do what he is told. Hear the trumpets. Hear the responses. Hear the laughter from those who know Trump will do whatever he wants and he will expect everybody to like it. Now, when it comes to releasing those pesky personal tax returns, Trump and his followers say he doesn't need to do it because he's unconventional, unorthodox. But he is also being uncooperative in what is expected of a candidate. Let's check the history books on this one. And we are learning more about the sordid history of sexual abuse cover-ups at a major American university. More evidence that Joe Paterno saved his football program at the expense of kids being sodomized. What does this say about not just Penn State, but American collegiate athletic programs in its entirety? It all says we will cover it all down the middle, and you will have a chance to comment. At 1-877-NEWSMAX, you will stay on target or you will be banished. I'm Ed Berliner. Let's see if you have what it takes to survive the hard line for Thursday, May 12th, 2016.
Look, it's no secret that Donald Trump and I have had our differences. We talked about those differences today. That's common knowledge. The question is, what is that we need to do to unify the Republican Party and all strains of conservative wings in the party? We had a very good and encouraging, productive conversation on just how to do that. It was important that we discussed our differences that we have, but it was also important that we discussed the core principles that tie us all together.
Those who believed Donald Trump, Paul Ryan, and members of the Republican power broker glitterati would meet Thursday and emerge with hands raised, celebratory trumpets blaring, and an ancient boombox behind them blaring the strains of "We Are Family," the same people who sadly have been ingesting large amounts of prescription medication in order to keep their delusions in check and are obviously well off the wagon. Will Donald Trump come into line with what is expected of him? Would Paul Ryan buckle and toss aside a career of conservative values? Will Dan Quayle announce he's available for another shot at the vice presidency and this time never mention a fruit or a vegetable? Allow the answers to flow. We seek to question everything. Undoubtedly inspire more than a few of you to dial us up at 1-877-NEWSMAX, where you must be in the queue when we allow you the chance to opine. Welcome back to soft-spoken, mild-mannered, demure veteran GOP strategist Ford O'Connell, paired with the equally quiet seeker of truth and knowledge, politics editor at the Washington Examiner and the author of Devouring Freedom, W. James Antle III, a political animal for a Thursday evening. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Mr. O'Connell, I start with you. Paul Ryan, Donald Trump, they met. Do you really think anything actually substantive happened here?
Not really, but I'm going to tell you this, that Paul Ryan's eventually going to endorse Donald Trump, and he's going to try to pull as many of members of the House conference along with him to support Trump. The problem for Paul Ryan is he can't just wave a wand and say, gee, the party is unified. He has to look like he's having thoughtful, behind closed doors meetings with Donald Trump if he's going to make this happen. Trump and Ryan need each other. Trump needs Ryan because basically Trump needs 92 to 93% of all registered Republicans to vote for him if he's going to win in November. And basically Ryan knows that he's sick and tired of playing defense as Speaker. He wants to play offense, and that only happens if Trump wins the White House.
All right, now I'm going to go ahead and pose something here. What you just said, Donald Trump needs 90 to 93% of the Republicans, the big-time backers behind him. That is exactly true. But Paul Ryan, he can sit back and wait 4 years. He doesn't necessarily need anybody right now. Donald Trump needs Paul Ryan more than the other way around, yes?
I disagree with you, because if you actually have Hillary Clinton in the White House, she's not going to win 4 years. She's actually going to win 8 years, because incumbent presidents don't lose. And the way the Democratic Party is moving, the very cultural fabric of America will be destroyed. And guess what? The economy will never recover either.
All right, Jim, let's get it to your side then, because everybody talks about a positive step coming out of this here. I mean, I do like what Paul Ryan said in one thing. This is our first meeting. It takes some time. You don't put it together in 45 minutes. And I think, actually, Jim, the most laughable thing that I saw all day long was the major news outlets with these breaking news banners. Nothing came of this. Nothing was said. Nothing happened. Paul Ryan did not back Donald Trump. Come on. This is just ridiculous. This is a process. But in your mind, who has the most to lose in the process?
Well, the Republican Party as an institution has the most to lose. I think you have to have a unified Republican base at some point, both to preserve congressional majorities and also, let's face it, one of the reasons why Donald Trump's numbers are worse than Hillary Clinton's is simply because there's still so much intra-party opposition to him. I think if there was anything substantive that was probably discussed is you're looking at Republican leaders want to see how serious is Donald Trump about doing what it takes to win in November. A lot of people have second-guessed what he's actually doing this for, what his motivations are. We really don't know. It's sort of like when Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul were going at it in the 2010 Republican Senate primary. McConnell came around to Rand Paul. Why? He needed that Senate seat, and he thought that Rand was going to do what it took to win it, was serious about it. I think that's all Trump needs to do with a lot of Republican leaders, probably including Paul Ryan.
All right. Now, Jim, we take a lot of heat on this show, and I'm really willing to take it in every single day because we take things down the line. We are very nonpartisan. We ask the favorites. We ask the good. We ask the bad. So let me hit you with this then, which some Trump people are going to be very unhappy by even asking this, Jim, but it deserves to be asked. Donald Trump is a bundle of contradictions. He has told people before that I will act more presidential. I will do this, I will do that, and then he backs up within a couple of days, a couple of hours, a couple of weeks. What is it, in your opinion, that would lead anybody to believe that he would come under tow this time and he will not say, don't worry, guys, I'll do what you need me to do, but then he'll actually do it within a couple of weeks?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the risk of Donald Trump, but I also think it's one of the sort of potential rewards of Donald Trump. One of Mitt Romney's best moments in the 2012 campaign was when he debated Barack Obama, changed a bunch of his positions during the course of the debate. Obama didn't really know what to do, where to hit him, how to hit him. I think Donald Trump is going to do that throughout this entire campaign. He's going to run his whole campaign in the general election like Romney did that one debate. Potentially frustrating for a lot of conservatives who are looking for philosophical consistency, but philosophical consistency isn't really what you're going to get out of Donald Trump. What you're going to get is a showman who's going to throw some haymakers at Hillary Clinton. Maybe they land, maybe they don't.
So then let's look at it from this side, Ford. Unity. I think you mentioned that word a couple of moments ago. We keep hearing that the Republican Party has got to unify. Paul Ryan's been very, very, very upfront about it. We must. But Donald Trump has said recently, I don't need unity. I don't need you guys, is basically what he has said. Doesn't that throw up a red flag? Or, let me throw it out this way. Is Donald Trump simply so strong in his message with what he has behind him that he can basically say to hell with the Republican Party, I'll do it my way and I'll still win?
Well, if he says the hell with the Republican Party, that's going to be very good for him with Middle America and Main Street. But the facts remain that a general election is very different than a Republican primary. It's more like stickball versus taking on the New York Yankees. And the way the Electoral College works, basically Trump needs everyone marching in the same direction. He needs a lot of campaign infrastructure, and he's going to have to raise $1.5 billion. And he isn't going to be able to do that without the majority of the Republican leaders in Washington on board with him.
Jim, there's even a great question there, and I'll ask the same thing to you. Can Donald Trump win the presidency if indeed there is not a unified Republican Party, simply because he's so strong?
Trump is going to need unified Republican voters. He can afford to have more Republican elected officials out flapping his wings against him because he's going to brand himself as something a little bit distinct from the Republican Party. But the plain fact does remain, he is going to need donor money because he can't self-fund in the general election, and he is going to need some of the party infrastructure. So he can afford to have a little bit of distance between himself and the party establishment, more than most other candidates could. But he's going to need some degree of unanimity, and he's going to need near unanimity among Republican voters when they turn out in November.
Gentlemen, let's get to a couple of issues here. Last year, Donald Trump said, and I quote, Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on. He was absolutely dead set on that. He did not say it was a suggestion in any way, shape, or form. However, talking today on Fox News Radio, he backed away from that suggestion that the U.S. ban Muslims from entering the country. Here's what he said.
We have a serious problem. It's a temporary ban. It hasn't been called for yet. Nobody's done it. This is just a suggestion until we find out what's going on.
All right, I'm going to begin with you on this one, Ford. Now he says it's just a suggestion. I'd like to back off on it ASAP. Which one do we believe?
Well, we believe that Donald Trump is a unique political animal who's also a bit of a shapeshifter, but he also understands the pulse of America. They're worried about terrorism, and I promise you that unfortunately, if a building goes boom, boom in the U.S. between now and Election Day, Donald Trump is going to walk into that White House because he's the only one actually addressing the problem, even if he may have erred in his words.
Yeah, but which one, Jim, do you think he's going to do now? Because he said, he seemed to be absolute. Of course, he said, if indeed and until we find some answers. But he seemed to be absolute. Now he's backing up. Is he just playing now? He hates being a politician, but isn't it fair to say that Donald Trump is now just as much politician as anybody?
Well, Trump has definitely moved around a lot on the details of the Muslim ban from the moment he proposed the idea. He's softened it at different points. He's hardened it at different points. But the thing that he has to remember, and I imagine he won't forget, in virtually every Republican primary, I think every Republican primary where the exit pollsters asked, huge majorities of Republicans actually agreed with him on the Muslim ban. It is party leaders, donors, establishment figures who really don't agree with him. So that's kind of what he's navigating right now. So he is indeed playing politics, but so far he's played politics much more effectively than the professional politicians running against him.
He absolutely has. He still stands. 90 seconds to go. Here's the news late today. A federal judge ruling the Obama administration has been improperly funding the Obamacare subsidy program, one of the programs. It's a big win for the House against the White House. Jim, where do you think we go from here? Because I got to imagine that tonight the White House is seething.
They are indeed seething, but they're probably happy that they have a split Supreme Court, and they're salivating over their November prospects, hoping for a more liberal judiciary. It's another blow to Obamacare. Keeps this debate going, but can Republicans capitalize on it and really keep this a live issue past November?
There's the question for you, Ford, capitalizing on this right now. What does the GOP need to do and the entire Republican establishment need to do to make this thing stick and make Obama's life even more difficult?
Well, basically, they're going to have to win an election in November because the next Democratic president, or the next president, is going to be able to name 3 to 4 Supreme Court justices. The key for Donald Trump is to make this case about Obamacare and how it's weakening their lives in Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. If he does that, he'll get 273 electoral votes, and we'll be talking about President Trump.
Here we go. And just to make sure everybody understands, nothing happened today between Donald Trump and Paul Ryan. We just want to say it again. It's breaking news. Oh, no, it's not. It's just what we all expected. Okay, I feel so much better now. Jim Antle and Ford O'Connell, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us, bringing some common sense to the argument, if you will. They got together. They met. It's still going to take some time. Shh. Everybody calm down, okay? Now, the historical nature of a presidential candidate refusing to make personal tax returns public. There's a lot of people out there saying, big deal. Donald Trump doesn't have to do it. Everybody else has. What makes him so special? We'll talk about that in an historical sense and a whole lot more. Much more. Your phone intervention. Craig Shirley's going to join us. You get a chance to ask him questions and talk about this at 1-877-NEWSMAX. 1-877-NEWSMAX. Let's see what you got on the hard line.